Howdy scrappers and scrap curious people, whoever wants to hang in there on the channel and have a look at what I'm doing. Okay, so today I found a bit of urban roadkill on the way back from securing some supplies, and it is an Ozito from the part of their Power Garden range. OZLT, so Ozito line trimmer, 550WA. I don't know what the WA actually means yet, but yeah, 550, that would be the fact that it's a 550 watt. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, now it's an Ozito, which in Australia is quite a cheap Bunnings brand. When I say cheap, it's not necessarily bad quality. What happens is they magically somehow manage to acquire the latest technology about a year or two old and from the bigger brands and incorporate that in their design. They turn up on the Bunnings shelves and they're almost a disposable tool. In fact, I've seen Ozito used as a disposable tool on many, many building sites. Quite common depending on which type of builder you're working for, which type of foreman, which boss. Quite a few of them will just buy a tool. I mean, you know, why buy a $300 tool and then worry about it when you can buy a $30 tool and then throw it away at the end of the job? I understand the thinking, not the best way, but what I did was I used to rescue those tools out of the dumper, out of the big bin with skip at the end of the job and go home and learn how they were put together by taking it apart. All right, so I'm going to take this one apart. I don't think there's going to be much in there. It's more curiosity than anything else. Certainly a bit of plastic, and I'm probably thinking that the handles are going to be steel rather than aluminium, but we'll see how I go on that prediction. Looks like, I think it's predominantly Phillips head. I don't think they've got any fancy torque or Allen keys. I think it's just standard Phillips head. But I'll put the screws aside so we can have a look at them as well. Well, let's see what's in it. Okay, the top half actually is pretty simplistic. It just split down the middle, two-piece construction, probably polypropylene. The handle comes off fairly easily. Oh, yeah, I went and jinxed myself. All right, so wriggle that out. And, oh, it's spring-loaded. No, it's not spring-loaded. It's got caught. Okay, so try that again. Whoa, yeah, it just falls apart. Okay, so nice long bolt in there. That might come in handy. All right, I'll pull that apart in a moment. Now, the trigger and switch. Okay, that's not a bad switch. It's certainly not high quality, but it's a fairly simplistic design. These would be quite easy repair, I'd say, especially with the steel shaft. And aluminium, once it bends, it doesn't want to go back in shape very easily. Of course, you can always replace the shafts as long as you're prepared to go through all that. All right, I'll see what it looks like inside there. Okay, yeah, so the top half, it was polypropylene. Polypropylene. You can see there with the PP. Sometimes with the more expensive tools, you might have a 30%, 20 or 30% some other sort of plastic mixed in with it, but these look like simple, straightforward polypropylene. So they, unfortunately, will go in the recycling bin. I would really, really, really love to get on board with someone with a shredder to turn that into pellets for the purpose of making plastic for 3D printings, but still haven't made that connection yet. Part of my network was a bit weak. This it's a little bit hard. I don't think it's polypropylene. It looks more like ABS, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, the parts here, they actually feel like, what do they feel like? That, have we got any markings? No. I'm not sure on that one. That could be ABS, but I'd say, look, it's probably HDPE or polypropylene. Not that it really matters at this stage, because it's, unless you're pulling apart a lot of them, because there's not much there. I'll probably just go in the recycling bin. Okay, so the little hand grip, look, it's not a bad little bolt, probably for, for a bit of carpentry work. But what I do to get these nuts out, just go in from the behind and hopefully, let's see, oh, hang on. No, this might be a two-handed job, but normally you can actually pull them out like this. Yeah, it's going to need a little bit more of persuasion, but that is how I tend to get most of these embedded nuts out. Just use the very thing that, you know, it's the right thing, because it actually was actually meant to be in there. All right, but that's, it's coming out, but it's going to take a bit, probably two-handed job. But the switch itself, yeah, look, oi, come back here. So the switch itself, yeah, I don't recognise SZMD. I don't recognise the company. But look, I like that. I do like the fact that you can just chop and change. You can modify that very easily. You can use that for projects. Yeah, that one might be a keeper, I'd say. All right, now the next step is to work out how to get the steel shaft off this. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so this was a bit trickier than I thought it would be. Oh, by the way, guys, it's a corded model. It's I forgot to mention that's not cordless, it's corded. So it's only really something that if you had a small yard and it was you had 240 volt power, which is what we have here in Australia, you had something like that nearby. Okay, so yeah, pulling this is pretty intricate. This one you actually push the button in and then just modify the actual. Oh, what would you call it? It's like a elbow in it, or a movable joint, but you can actually adjust the angle. So that is a bit harder. That's ABS. All right. And then I'll get in there and get the rest of that apart. Okay, so the two halves of the bottom unit, or where the motor is, that's not going to come apart because it actually tucks into the safety shroud. Now, with this particular one, it's got a contraption on there which is not normal, and that looks like it is perfectly designed to run along walls, maybe rendered walls, for example, to avoid damage. So when the trimming line comes out, as long as you make sure it's not longer than that, that way you won't damage, yeah, whether it's plaster or what we call stucco or something like that. Anyway, or rendering, things like that. It's probably to avoid damage there. And of course, you've got this little bit which self-trimming. So if it gets too long, that designed to actually cut the actual the line trimmer. All right, so let's see if I can get this one apart. All right, so the oh, I forgot what you call these, but basically the spool. So where you got the spool to wind the actual cordage on. There you go, ABS. Bit of free cordage. Oh, that's the new twisty type. Okay, so they came up with the idea is if they twisted it, it actually gives it more rigidity, gives it a little bit more cutting, and it also means it's stronger, it doesn't just snap. Yeah, well, I do have a collection of these spools just in case. It may end up in there. And, oh, okay, what do we got here? This one. Oh, this one might need a little bit of investigation to work out how that one comes off. All right, back in a minute, guys. Okay, had me a bit of a proper look, and it turns out there's a retaining screw tucked away in this protected area here, because this is the work area of the unit. So it gets a bit of wear and tear in there with the grass and the cuttings. All right, come on, buddy. Oh, I need to just strengthen the magnetic force on the screw. Come on, you nearly had it. Come on. Oh, this is a challenge. Can't forget the bloody claw machines at the arcades. This is just almost as fun. All right, so there we go. Almost as frustrating, one or the other. Now, the actual shroud, polypropylene, black polypropylene. So, guys, one of the most common plastics used in outdoors, the plant pots. So, you know, when you go buy a pot plant, it comes in that black plastic container. That's polypropylene. Black polypropylene, very, very common. And if you're going to get into thermoplastics, which if you do, amazing. So cool to make your own stuff. But yeah, with this, hopefully it's going to just, oh, it goes that way. So it goes that clockwise. Oh, come on, nearly had you. There we go. Just goes clockwise and then pops straight off. All right, we got some warning. Okay. I assume that means something Do not bump or tap spool. Okay, so it's not a bump one. It's apparently, yeah. Okay, so I would say that red bit of plastic will be hiding and protecting from the work area a screw or a bolt, probably a screw, and it's probably at this stage I'd be guessing that it's a left-handed thread, but oh, let's go find out. Oh, hang on, now I've got the shroud off, I should be able to pull that apart. Or have I forgotten one screw? Oh no, let's see how we go. So I did have all the screws, it was just that it was actually very, look, I have to say I'm a little bit impressed with that design. Even though it's polypropylene, it's actually was in there quite solid. So there we go, there we have the motor, the AC motor, with a little bit of residual cuttings, and oh, hang on, that'd be a capacitor, I'd say. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it'd be a capacitor, and I think it'd be to assist with the starting workload, maybe, I don't know, or maybe it's just a controlling capacitor. Yeah, UF. So UF to me, that means capacitor because that's in farads, I believe. I could be wrong there. All right, now I'll just go and toss that in the pile. Oh, hang on, yeah, might end up on the trophy wall. We'll see how we go. All right, now let's see if you're going to wriggle out. Come on, that's it. Yep, there we go. Again, go where you. Yeah, no, that one I might reclaim that sticker just in case I can. All right, so there is a chance that that's copper in there. At least on the actual armature it'll be copper, but on the stator it may cook copper as well. But anyway, if it is, of course, I'll weigh it up for you and we'll see how we go. All right, so I need to yeah, get into that, pull that. Oh, hang on, what are you? That's the other end of the spindle shaft. Okay, let's pull you apart. All right, certainly dealing with a fair bit of dried grass clippings. Okay, so it was actually a nut, not a screw, and it's on the spindle. Let's see if I can get it off. Yep, there we go. So it's a nut in there, and it's normal left-handed thread. Hang on, what? Normal thread, lefty loosey. All right. Okay, let's dismantle this one. Okay guys, well that was a little bit disappointing. Unfortunately it was aluminium. The stator wiring was just stator. Say that again. So yeah, it was aluminium, so a little bit disappointing. So yeah, I could tell just from pulling it out that it was very light, and then just did a scratch test to confirm, and yeah, it's definitely aluminium, unfortunately. But that's all right. This, however, like normal, is copper. Although getting that off is going to be a bit tricky. I'll have to come up with an idea, and if I come up with something, that I think worth sharing, I'll let you know. Then I think that's a commutator. Anyway, so that there is copper, which should come off as domestic copper. Most of that is feels like Bakelite or something similar. It's like a plastic. It's usually just a couple of mil thick, but they were definitely worth taking off for domestic copper if you want to grab them, and standard 608 bearings, which is very common in these size motors. Look, I will say that for a cheap model, I wasn't really expecting copper. I was hoping because it was an older model that, yeah, maybe I might, but no, it was definitely aluminium wiring. Now, the main value of this was, obviously, if you could get it up and running again, if you could redo it. And the one thing I will say about some of the brands, the cheaper ones, is they use a larger motor than they need to, especially if they think it's going to be used for quite a lot of time. Like, you might only use it 1 hour a month, but you're using it for the whole hour. So therefore it does actually heat up a bit. So they tend to use a larger size motor than they technically need to, which basically means it's not going to break down in the first year or so. That's why they can get away with a cheaper aluminium wiring rather than the copper. If you're going to have a smaller motor, then you go copper. It's just lasts longer. They still burn out, as I found out, but yeah, overuse, or it's the actual user that's normally the problem. Although some of them some of the equipment is actually under-engineered, as I found. All right, so the actual shaft itself, it's steel, two-piece, and like tents or sometimes trampoline, it's got the little push button. However, that's hidden away in that little hole there. So yeah, just 2 bits of steel with a bit of plastic. They're sometimes worth keeping if they're standard. Just a little, just a very, very basic spring. All right, so all in all, is it worth pulling apart? Not unless you've got 2 and you're making one out of the 2. Okay, oh, by the way, the actual motor itself had a couple of T20s. So yes, there was finally something that wasn't just a Phillips head. Yeah, had a couple of T20 bolts. So they will go into the tin. And there is pretty much all the screws. I think I lost one in the dismantling, but yeah, that's, yeah, not too bad. Look, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not going to get excited about one of these. The main reason I grabbed it was, of course, so I can make a video, because I didn't have this model up there on my YouTube channel. So I'm just going to keep adding model after model, because it literally, there's no real, oh, there's a little tiny bit of brass. The actual structure around the contacts is brass, so tiny bit of brass there. So realistically, you're talking, cool, maybe a couple of bucks worth of scrap. Nothing special, but just fun pulling it apart. Just, you know, want to know how it works. This was something I hadn't seen before. The little wheel to run along the wall. That's something that yeah, not a common thing. But yeah, look, fair bit of plastic. I'm now going to chuck all that out. Oh, sorry, recycle that. Yeah, fun and games. Nothing really worthwhile. I would say, in all honesty, if you had 2 of these and, say, a trigger stopped working on one and something else stopped working on the other, it might be worth fixing them up, because they're not a bad little unit. And up until recently, I would have said it's probably not worth it. You're probably better off going out and buying a $50 one to replace it. But hey, times have changed. So cost of living, all that sort of stuff. Making one out of 2. The one thing I will say is, because it's 240 volts, guys, be very, very careful when mucking around with that, because that, unfortunately, is really, really good for stopping the human heart. So yeah, be careful. Anything that you're wiring with 240 volts, if you're rewiring, technically you're supposed to be an electrician, or testing and tagging. It depends on where you are, what location. But hey, and it may even breach your home insurance policy. Who knows? You should be careful, guys. But obviously, if you're not touching the 240 volt stuff, well, it's probably okay just to fix a trigger that's just activating it. Not 100% sure, not a lawyer, but yeah, there you go. All right, guys, where possible, reuse, recycle, repurpose, but if necessary, then scrap. And if you scrap, well, hey, that's how much you get out of this one. Not a hell of a lot. I mean, you'd probably be better off marketing the plastic, because there's quite a bit on that. All right. Anyway, guys, tell me what you reckon, and I'll see what's next to post up. What next is going to sacrifice itself on the anvil of the greater good of the scrapping community. All right, guys, catch you out.